Hello, and welcome to Northrend Crusade's guide to the 10-man encounter with Sindragosa inside of Icecrown Citadel. This is a 3-phase encounter that calls for the use of 2 tanks and 3 healers, though the second tank will not come into play until the 3rd phase. It's also a good idea to have a decent mix of ranged and melee DPS, not only for the sake of raid utility, but because of the different debuffs that accumulate on the players depending on the type of damage they deal. At the start of the encounter, the main tank should face Sindragosa toward the right or left wall, positioning her at the center of the platform. This provides the raid with a comfortable amount of space to move on both sides, though all players should be on the same side at any given time. Also, her aggro table can be tricky sometimes, so it is recommended that raids make use of tricks and misdirects at the start. Phase 1 is an introduction to the debuff management players will have to exercise throughout the encounter, with a small amount of required movement, and a frost aura that deals 4.5k damage to all raid members every 3 seconds. Any player who deals direct physical damage to Sindragosa during the encounter has a 20% chance to have the stacking debuff Chilled to the Bone applied to them, which deals 1k frost damage every 2 seconds for 8 seconds per application. This includes tanks and hunters, so all physical damage dealers need to watch their stacks and be ready to stop all attacks, including melee swings, to allow time for the debuff to drop off before damage gets out of control. Preferably, players should have no more than 5 stacks at any given time. Sindragosa will also cast a debuff called Unchained Magic on 2 random spellcasters, including healers, that lasts for 30 seconds and inflicts a secondary stacking debuff called Instability on the player for every spell they cast. This debuff deals 2k arcane damage to the player per stack and resets 5 seconds after the last successful cast. Like those dealing physical damage, players afflicted with Unchained Magic need to stop casting in order to allow their stacks to reset, preferably before they reach more than 4 stacks of instability. About 30 seconds into each ground phase, Sindragosa will use her Icy Grip to pull all raid members toward her and begin casting Blistering Cold, which deals 35k frost damage to all players within 25 yards. In order to help our group get away faster, we opted to run straight through her to the other side after each pull, or fall back on our current location if her Icy Grip glitched and failed to pull us to her center. This mechanic still seems a little rough, so if you have latency issues, it's a good idea to turn down your video settings, because of the frequency with which people seem to lag during these crucial 5 seconds. Other than that, Sindragosa is just another dragon during her first phase. If you're not tanking her, stay away from her head, and don't get too close to her tail, lest you get tail smashed. At 85%, and every 1 minute and 50 seconds thereafter, Sindragosa will leave the platform and enter her air phase. During this phase, 2 random raid members will be targeted with Frost Beacon, marking them for her Icy Tomb ability in the next 5 seconds. The Ice Tomb traps the beaconed player and all other players within 10 yards inside a block of ice with 113k HP. Any player inside will begin to suffocate after 20 seconds, taking damage equal to 8% of their total health each following second. These players will have to be broken out of their tombs, but not before Sindragosa is finished casting her Frost Bombs. She will cast 4 of these each air phase, dealing around 25k damage to all raid members that are in line of sight of the targeted location, so players need to watch out for the blue marks on the floor and hide behind the tombs in order to avoid damage. DPS should take the tombs down to around 30% before the phase is over, so they can be ready to break their allies out quickly. It is vitally important that no more than the 2 targeted players get trapped in the ice tombs, as it will become very difficult to recover from. Sindragosa will repeat her ground and air phases until she reaches 35% health, whereupon she will enter her 3rd and most deadly phase. This phase combines all elements of the earlier ground and air phases, but replaces the Frost Bombs with a new debuff called Mystic Buffet, or as we have come to call it, Mystic Buffet. This is a simple stacking debuff that increases all magic damage by 10% per application, with an 8-second duration that refreshes after each new application. The actual buffet hits every 6 seconds in the form of a pulse emitted from Sindragosa's center, so players will accumulate a large number of stacks very quickly if they aren't careful. Here, the players that become Frost Tombed should be used to clear the debuff on the raid members before breaking them out, with the tanks alternating position to clear their stacks as well. This debuff complicates the encounter far more than anything else, so dealing with it appropriately is crucial to success. In our strategy, we divide the room into right and left quadrants, using the floor texture as a guideline for raid movement. Each tank is assigned a side to hold throughout the encounter, while the rest of the raid moves between them accordingly. Since our main tank started the encounter on the right side, the rest of the raid should be stacked up on the left side at the start of the third phase. The first person to be frost beaconed then moves to the right side, staying close to the tank, but keeping at least a 10-yard distance for when the tomb hits. Once the ice tomb is in place, the second tank should taunt Sindragosa, facing her to the left, while the rest of the raid moves to the right side. Everyone on the right side, including the tank assigned to that side, should now be able to clear their stacks of Mystic Buffet with relative ease using the ice tomb. The next person to be frost beaconed should then move to the left quadrant and position themselves in the same manner as the first had on the right. When the ice tomb is in place, the first tank should taunt the boss back, facing her to the right side again, while the rest of the raid moves to the left. This process is repeated throughout the rest of the encounter, making sure that tanks clear their stacks whenever they don't have the boss. Additionally, melee DPS should focus on the ice tombs, while the ranged continue hitting Sindragosa as much as possible. But remember, this encounter is not so much of a DPS race as it is about raid movement and managing debuffs. Once you get the quadrant rotation down, things start to fall into place and the encounter moves much more smoothly. There are a few additional tricks that players can use, though they should not be depended on. This includes using the ice tombs to line of sight Sindragosa's icy grip, making it easier to get away from blistering cold. You cannot, however, be certain that there will be an icy tomb available at the time of the pull, so everyone should still be prepared to run out immediately. Additionally, the tomb won't protect you from the blast, so players will still need to move back if they are within the 25-yard radius. Healers can also try to find a spot where they can line of sight Sindragosa's center while still being able to heal their tank, but don't neglect them while trying to find the perfect spot. It may not exist, and it won't be there for long, even if it does. I hope you have found this helpful, and wish you the best of luck in your encounter.